It's trying to get everybody in the country used to the idea of, these words are equal violence and people are after you or whatever. And who's dictating what is going to be harmful and what's not harmful speech?
Helldivers 2. Whoa, here we go. The blowback is real. This was the game that has been propped up as the golden child against wokeness. Everything that is right in the world is Helldivers 2. You get to shoot bugs. You shoot giant robots. You get to go in and get out and get all sorts of stuff. You get to have custom capes and all sorts of colors on your armor. It's so much fun. Here we are. Warren, have you played any Helldivers 2?
Blabs messaged me today at like 10 a.m. She's like, catch up on Helldivers 2 because of the story. So I downloaded it and tried to catch up, but I only had about an hour and I had to install it. But yes, I haven't.
Play the game.
Well, I know. Then I was researching and I was like, well, this looks pretty cool, actually. I can't believe I hadn't tried this. And it was like $40. But, as we get into the story, people are probably going to have their own perspectives on whether this should be boycotted, whether or not this is a good time to get in. But I decided to just go for it. So I just started it.
Well, it is definitely the coolest. If peeing in your pants was cool, tell you what, Helldivers would be the coolest right now because they are peeing in their pants in the worst way possible. Des, have you played any Helldivers at all?
I haven't played it. I'm familiar with it.
Okay. All you need to know: big guns, big bugs, big robots, boom, explosion, fun times with friends. That's pretty much it. If I was to do an elevator pitch on it, there you go. Well, they kind of screwed the pooch today, and people are really pushing back on this. And there's a lot of thoughts on why this has happened, especially coming off some of the stories we've had the last few days as it pertains to Sony, because Helldivers 2 is a Sony game. So, Blabs, I'm going to let you read this because there's a lot of text, and I struggle with a lot of text. So this is a tweet. I'll read up to the actual message itself. So Helldivers tweets out, Helldivers, an important message from our partner PlayStation about account linking for PC players and its significance in providing player safety features. It always comes back to safety. But here we go.
I just want to tie in how this really, if you think about it from yesterday's talk with Sony, new painting and all that, just think about that, guys. All right, so Helldivers 2 account linking update. Attention Helldivers. Due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network, also PSN, account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. See details below in this post. Account linking plays a critical role in protecting our players and upholding the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studio games. This is our main way to protect players from griefing and abuse by enabling the banning of players that engage in that type of behavior. It allows those players to have been banned the right to appeal. And this is where it gets really important. As such, as of May 6th, all new Helldivers 2 players on Steam will be required to connect their Steam account to a PlayStation Network account. Current players on Steam will start to see the mandatory login from May 30th and will be required to have linked the Steam and PlayStation Network account by June 4th. PlayStation Network accounts are free and easy to set up using this link. Then they can say, oh, we understand, blah, 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 blah. Sony Interactive Entertainment.
Okay. So people may be saying, why is this important? Well, the blowback on this has been swift and just on X's, as they have been ratioed in a major way. And I think just looking at some of the comments on this is the best way to describe, or is to kind of see the feedback and the top comments on this. You can see Disbrew says, was this clearly agreed to by customers before they bought the game on Steam? Surely you didn't just bait and switch everyone to play past the 2-hour refund window, then change a contract, right? And Carl Benjamin Sargon says, I don't have a PlayStation, so I guess I can't play Helldivers anymore then, right? That's Star Wars Girl. This is total BS.
Yeah, but I mean, that's wrong. So anyone can create a PlayStation account.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Like, how does it work if creating the PlayStation account on Steam is just virtual, right? Like, you don't.
Well, you'd have to make a new PlayStation account, like on Sony website, and then link the two.
Okay.
But the problem that lots of people have, and we'll get into this later on, is Sony was hacked recently too. So it's like, why should you put your personal information on another account when you don't even own a PlayStation and you don't play any of the PlayStation games, right? You bought the game for PC. Why should you have to go and do all this extra stuff where your privacy is at risk?
So we talked about this story yesterday, and this is why people are like, ugh. So yesterday we talked about this story where Sony filed a patent that will monitor your biometric data and read your emotions in order to auto detect and deter in-game harassment.
What? Can you explain that again? Like what does that mean?
Well,
your biometric.
Yeah, like it'll probably be in your controller or something. They'll be able to read your heart rate and everything. And if it's elevated, they think you'll be harassing someone or you're being harassed yourself, and they will ban you. It's real. This is what Sony wants to do.
This is a real story.
So
this is a real
Oh my goodness.
You asked for a refund for your game because you haven't played it yet.
Dang. Yeah, it's like an hour ago.
Yeah, you can ask for a refund and you'll probably get it.
I doubt it.
So that's why people. That's why people are very, very upset about this. Like the amount of distrust is very low right now when it comes to Sony, and it's coming off of Stellar Blade and this note about the patent that they filed and the technology behind that. And probably the biggest thing is people bought this PC game with the intention of playing it on PC, so they didn't have to worry about any console stuff. And you have to have a PlayStation account to play on the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4, whatever. But you are, as pointed out here by Bucky, says, I'm sure this will be very well received by PC players and everything will be smile and rainbows. It has not been, because PC players are their own group, and they are very protective of their PC games. So you can see the pushback on this has been very real, as people have, as was suggested early on, go in and give it a negative review. So here is the Helldivers 2 reviews just in the last week. It says Helldivers 2 received over 14,000 negative reviews today due to an update that will require PlayStation Network accounts next week. In case you missed it, SteamDB now has daily reviews on the charts page. So there you go. You can see the pushback on this in a major way. This has been a very positively reviewed game. And people have not been into this decision because, once again, we are now in the process of combining the PC and Sony world. But there are some larger issues here. The idea of, you have to select your region that you live in. You have to select a certain country that you live in when you create your PlayStation account. Well, what if you live in one of these countries that doesn't have, or that isn't listed in the PlayStation country selector? All right, let's just say you live in a country, but that allows you
China, Russia.
Well, maybe a game that you can play on Steam, but isn't available when it comes to Sony. So guess what? Your $40 game that you bought is no longer usable because of this update, right?
Unless you make a VPN, which brings me to my next point about this, was that I went into the Discord, shout out to Skirmitar for the recommendation, and somebody asked the community manager in Discord, and they're like, you guys should look quickly into the Discord announcement how to join from a region where PlayStation Network access is prohibited using a VPN. And this guy right at the bottom says, we do. They know how to break terms of service, and they're kind of suggesting you should probably break terms of service, but that they also don't know all the information. It says, we're still waiting for more information from Sony. So don't you think you should have made all these announcements when you had all the information readily available, instead of getting hounded by all these people saying, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Because now there's people who are going to break Sony's terms of service to try to play this game because they don't have PlayStation. It's like, this makes no sense. You guys are stupid. And there's even more here from another person in Discord. And they're like, listen, I live in a country that doesn't have PlayStation Network. If I use a VPN, I will be banned from PlayStation Network. If you're forcing this to us, then at least give us our money back. Not only that, in my country, there are over 1,000 players who play Helldivers 2. You just single-handedly killed your own game. Congratulations. And they're like, well, first of all, it's Sony's decision, not ours. Secondly, we don't have all the details about region-related issues yet. We're chasing Sony to get more information. So again, it's like, why didn't you plan this out? If this is the way this is going to go and Sony is forcing your hand, you should have released everything when you had all the information. And I think it's a shit idea to even force people to make an account for Sony when they are never going to play Sony. It's mind-boggling in my opinion.
You know, as pointed out right here, by Suna Soul Silver says, let's not forget this was announced on a Friday in hopes that it would be gone by the weekend, right? There's usually this Friday news dump that happens, and it's like, well, hopefully they'll just forget about it. I don't think this is going to be forgotten about.
This is huge.
You know, if you don't really get it from the outside, like I want to continue the story from That Park Place. It says numerous players have indicated they would stop playing the game given the linking was mandated. And as such, it appears Sony and Airhead, the developers of the game, have locked the thread on Steam talking about it, right? Because, you know, it's like people have been pushing back. So, well, we just don't want to hear it. It goes back to the plug in your ears and saying, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't hear it, you know? There's
like a 2-minute slow mode enabled on Discord, last I checked. So every 2 minutes, you were able to write one thing.
John Goldaros wrote, the future desertion of Helldivers 2 in less than a month. Adios. I don't have a PlayStation account, nor do I effing want one. I will seek a refund for this if a PlayStation account is enforced. You're already using a trash anti-cheat in a PvE game. It's like Sony doesn't want PC players to play their most popular title, literally 100-0 in 3 weeks. And this is going to be real interesting to see. And right here, can you explain to me how selling my personal data to Sony PlayStation will make me safer?
Can I ask a question about the game? Like,
yeah.
So this is basically to combat Sony saying like harassment. So people, when you go online, you're trying to play with other people and they're harassing you. Is that what I'm understanding? And bullying?
That is the implied upside of this. We're going to make everybody safer. It's for your safety,
right?
Des.
Like controlling everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all know it's about control. We all know that. But I mean, do you have? See, this is what drives me crazy. It's like a lot of games you don't have to be able to. You don't have to talk to people. You don't have to have that component there. You're choosing to get
you don't have to talk in the game.
Yeah, I mean, when I was playing Halo 3, many times I would get some obnoxious guys in a thing. I'm like, I don't want to deal with these guys. So I would turn my thing off and turn it off, and hey, problem solved. Problem solved. You know what I mean? It's like it's like this. Like, are people being forced to play video games in order to be fed every day? Are they being forced to play this game? No, it's a luxury. It's something fun you get to do. So no one's forcing you to being bullied. You know,
right.
The whole idea is so strange and destructive.
It's just another way to have more of your private info. And like I was saying before, Sony has been hacked multiple times in the last few years. So this is just another risk of having your information stolen. I mean, listen, it's already out there, right? Your phone and everything. But like, it's just another thing. Like, why should you make an account for PlayStation when you don't have a PlayStation? You are playing on Steam. You bought the game on Steam. And it's mind-boggling because you bought this game without thinking that you're going to play have an account with PlayStation. You bought it for your PC, and now you can't play this game anymore in a couple of weeks unless you make a PlayStation account. So like, you bought this $40 game, and if you don't want the account for PlayStation, you can't play the game. So it's like, well, this is against your rights. I don't even know how legal this is, to be honest. Like, terms of service, change it on you. I would have to really look into this, but it just doesn't seem very morally correct, if anything.
How would having the PlayStation Network account stop the quote unquote harm or the bullying? Let's say.
Because then they can track you and they can just ban you.
And they can't do that on Steam or like already?
That's what I'm confused about, right? It's Steam. Like, why can't they just be like, oh, you've been banned or you're on timeout, whatever it is? No, Sony has to have their hands, little puppet hands inside of everything. But I actually I bring up a really good point about, the VPN and all this stuff, because, they're going to combine the accounts and link them. So Nasmer, who was on the show the other day on Tuesday talking about Tarkov, he says, the thing is as well, my PlayStation Network and Steam accounts on Helldivers are separate. I own the game on both platforms, so me and my girl can play together. If I link it now, will the PlayStation Network Helldivers profile take over my Steam and reset my progress? Will my girlfriend not be able to play with me? And that's honestly a huge question. It's like, okay, if you have them on both, will they just combine all your progress and you won't be able to have them on 2 separate accounts? Like, how is this working? And there really is no answer for this stuff yet. And again, like I said, they should have released all the information prior to just dropping a huge bomb like that.
This goes back to you mentioned Skirmitar as well, and he put this out. The thing about data, it's like, hey, here we are. Sony confirms data stolen by 2 recent hacker attacks. This is late last year. It's a consistent theme. Hey, let's put your data somewhere else, which is great. Grum's put this pretty well. He says, as a PC gamer, I'm completely uninterested in upholding the values and safety security on PlayStation, right? Like, why, as a PC gamer, I have no interest in doing that on a PlayStation. It's a ridiculous requirement that binds you to Sony's terms of service, even if you don't own a PlayStation. And therein lies the issue. You didn't buy a PlayStation, so.
And then you can get into trouble because you don't even know what Sony's terms of service is, because, like, why would you care, right? Just because you made a little account, you forgot about it. What happens if years later they change the terms of service and like, oh, you did this like 5 years ago. You said this, like, you're in trouble now. Sony's going to come after you. Like, that is an entire possibility. I know, a tinfoil hat, but like, that is a thing that can happen.
It's not a tinfoil hat. That stuff is already happening.
Yes.
I mean, look, you're talking to the person who got banned from a convention because I wasn't being safe and inclusive because I followed a stupid account. I mean, are you kidding me? So yeah, that stuff is already happening. That's what, like, I know there's a lot of details why all this doesn't make sense that you've explained, Blobs, but I just think like this, the premise of it is what really pisses me off, because it's like this, it's trying to get everybody in the country used to the idea of, these words are equal violence and people are after you or whatever. And who's dictating what is going to be harmful and what's not harmful speech? I mean, this is way too 1984. We are already there, and it really pisses me off and it scares me, and I don't like it just for that reason alone.
Yeah, it's part of the charm. The degeneracy is part of the charm for me of gaming. If you take away the potential for degeneracy, then it's like taking Asmongold away from fucking YouTube or something. It's like, it just makes it boring. Not that Asmongold is hate speech or anything, but it's part of the charm. Like, don't tamper with it.
Yeah, if you can't take some, insults or whatever, like, none of these people survived Call of Duty back in the day. Let's be real here. Yeah, if you can't accept, that maybe someone's gonna be a dickhead to you, you can just mute it.
If it's too far, then turn off your mic, turn off your headset. That's all you gotta do. No one's forcing you.
Hey,
it's so destructive. Like, putting these ideas. Sorry, am I getting too riled up?
No, Des, you need to stop with your common sense. Cut it out. You stop
I'm just
it.
a girl. I don't have any common sense.
I'm just female. We're just innocent females.
Don't say mean words to me.
Stop it. It's okay.
You know what's really funny though was that I was literally saying this the other day. I was like, I haven't been able to play Helldivers because of how many glitches I received in the game, and it's finally been fixed. But at this point, anytime I say, "Hey, someone want to play with me?" they're like, "No, your level is way too low for me. I don't want to because I'm so behind." Right? So I never played the game, and I'm like, I kept thinking, I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna be so behind. Like, I shouldn't even bother anymore. And now I have the perfect reason not to pick it up. It's like, oh wow, I'm not playing anymore. Guess I didn't miss anything. Guess I'm not left behind.
I'm in a big Helldivers 2 DM group on X, and I'm curious to see kind of what people's response to is this. In there, if people will continue to play, because the people in this group, they're like, oh, this is they're like Helldivers all the time, just hook it to my vein, all they want to do is play Helldivers. So I'm gonna need to go through and see what the general mood is on there. But I'll say this: the CEO of Arrowhead and the Helldivers 2 creative director has made a comment about this, and it's It is what it is. Hey, everyone, in regards to account linking and questions there too, please reference this link. If you have any further questions, you can reach out using the contact PlayStation support at the bottom of the page. So he's pretty much going like, he's like, hey, if you got any questions, just go over there.
Which doesn't even answer any of the questions. I looked at the link. There's like nothing there. I think you have to sign in on PlayStation to ask stuff, and it's like, well, that defeats the purpose.
Right. Well, what's funny here is there's a few questions here. You're gonna, cross progression and stuff. Lethal comes in with in his so many words.
I mean, he's not wrong.
So this was interesting. This guy says, "I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further," which is, obviously, Darth Vader, right?
That's honestly what happened. This was the contract saying you can play on PC, no problem. And then all of a sudden, oh no, sorry, you have to have a PlayStation account to continue playing, or else too bad, you can't play this game that you bought.
But here's his response, though, is him like clapping to it. This is the CEO clapping to that, right? Saying like, what? So the way I take that, if I could read into that metaphor, it's that he's saying this is what happened with Sony. And that he's agreeing with that, just not publicly. Am I reading that wrong?
I mean, that could be one way to look at it, or another thing where he's like, I'm clapping because we altered the deal, and he could be the bad guy, and he's like, suckers. It could be either one.
Right. As Warren, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw somewhere posted where it was, he was responding in a way that alluded to like our hands are tied and we're being forced into it. But then I also heard the claim that they had been transparent about this from the beginning, saying that they were. Is that true? Do you know whether or not that's true, that they were saying that this potentially could happen?
I never saw that, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I saw that being tossed around as well, but I can't speak to that. But Mike, you're right. Says this response screams, guys, it isn't us, it's the publisher. If you want it to reverse, go complain here. We hear you, but there's nothing we can do. Blink twice if this is the case, right? That definitely appears to be, the big thing is that this looks like we've talked about this before, but the publisher to developer relationship, right? The publisher gives the developer a giant bag of money, and they say, go make the game you want to make. And the developer comes out and they say, here's the game we wanted to make. And the publisher goes, great, now change all this stuff. And then they go, well, but that's not the game we wanted to make. And they said, well, did you like that giant bag of money? And they go, well, yeah, we like the bag of money. They said, well, then you better go make those changes, right? And that's usually how this works when it comes to this. But once again, all just shrouded in this idea of, it's for your safety, little man, pat you on the head. And that's the most condescending thing about this. They clearly think that everybody who plays video games are just absolute idiots, and can't see through this stuff. So we'll see if we're talking about Stellar Blade. That's been a big topic of conversation. And Stellar Blade put out a tweet after the whole pushed back on them in the censorship, and they're like, hey, we hear you guys, be looking out for an update soon. So some people are taking that as maybe they're listening, right? We'll see if that happens with Helldivers, because I know a lot of people in our chat, they love Helldivers. A lot of people that in our community, they love Helldivers. We'll see what the response is to this. If they have a response later today, if they have a response on Monday, if they don't have a response, if Sony puts their foot down on this, in 30 days, are we going to see a mass exodus of Helldivers? And if we do, does it matter? Well, we sold a bunch of games. We're good. We saw a tremendous success. We're good. I guess, we'll chalk it up to a learning experience for next time down the road.
I will say, I'm in the Helldivers Discord, and they are pissed. All the people who are in there, they are fuming. Like, the chat is flying. They're doing all the Sony memes in there. Like, they're not happy, these guys. So it's definitely not like a little tiny thing that's going to go away over the weekend. At least I don't think so, especially since this is effective soon.
Yes.
Well, it's so coincidental. Like, we covered that story earlier in the show about them making the offer for 23 million. That was Sony, right?
Yep.
26
billion. Sorry.
They don't
So
need
they
more
don't need
power.
the money. Yeah.
Or the money. But and this is really the time that people have got to keep making noise and pushing back. We're like at a really interesting time right now in the video game industry. And there's been so much finally, like people are really stepping up and making their voices heard. And I just hope people don't back down because there's got to be some change.
I think people are fed up and you start to see that more and more. Like even the normies are like, what the shit, bro?